Welcome back to the channel. If you've been following our journey, you know this is the place where we explore life-changing books, timeless wisdom, and strategies to help you create the best version of yourself. Today, we're diving into a book that has transformed the lives of countless people around the world, The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. This isn't just another self-help book, it's a blueprint for reclaiming your mornings, building unshakable discipline, and unlocking a level of focus and creativity you may have never experienced before. If you've ever felt like your days are slipping away, like you're constantly reacting instead of creating, or like your goals keep getting pushed aside because you don't have time, this book is going to hit you hard. Sharma takes us on a journey through a story about two individuals, a burned-out entrepreneur and a struggling artist, who meet an eccentric billionaire. Through his guidance, they learn how waking up at 5 a.m. can become the ultimate secret weapon for success. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll be rethinking the way you start your mornings. The story begins in a crowded conference hall, buzzing with conversations, clinking coffee cups, and the kind of restless energy that fills a room when people are searching for something more. Among the audience are two people whose lives are stuck in a silent struggle. The entrepreneur, sharp and determined on the outside, is privately weighed down by the pressures of running her business. What was once her passion now feels like a constant uphill climb, with dwindling profits and sleepless nights. Beside her sits an artist, a man whose early career was fueled by pure passion. But now, the spark that once lit up his creativity has dimmed under the weight of bills, obligations, and creative blocks. He's still producing work, but the joy is gone. In their own ways, both of them are burned out, craving a breakthrough, a way to breathe life back into their dreams. Then the speaker takes the stage, and he's nothing like they expected. No flashy suit, no over-the-top energy. Just a calm, grounded presence that instantly changes the atmosphere in the room. He begins to speak about mastery. Not just mastery of business or art, but mastery of time, habits, and mindset. And then he drops a single, powerful line: own your morning. Elevate your life. It sounds simple, almost too simple. But there's something about the conviction in his voice that makes it land differently. He explains that real success isn't the result of big, one-time actions, but of small, consistent wins, and the biggest win of all is how you start your day. He describes the early hours of the morning as a sacred window, a time when the world is still asleep, distractions are minimal, and your mind is at its sharpest. He compares it to standing on a quiet beach at dawn before the world wakes up. It's yours, and yours alone. Think about it. How often do you start your day already behind? Rushing to get ready, glancing at emails before you've even brushed your teeth, scrolling through social media as if it's going to set the tone for success. That's how most people live, reacting to life instead of leading it. Now picture an entirely different start. You wake up at 5 a.m., before the chaos begins. You take 20 minutes to move your body, maybe a quick workout, a jog, or yoga, getting your blood flowing and your energy levels up. Then you spend 20 minutes in reflection, journaling, meditating, or simply sitting in silence to plan your day. Finally, you devote 20 minutes to growth, reading a great book, learning a new skill, or listening to something inspiring. By the time the rest of the world wakes up, you've already invested in your mind, body, and soul. He warns them that this shift won't be easy. It requires breaking the cycle of late nights and mindless scrolling, of telling yourself, "I'm not a morning person." But he explains that willpower is like a muscle, it grows stronger with use. And science backs him up. In the early morning, dopamine and serotonin levels are naturally high, boosting motivation and mood. Decision fatigue hasn't set in yet, and your mind is primed for deep, focused work. He shares real-life examples. Olympic athletes train early because they know that's when their energy, discipline, and mental sharpness are at their peak. CEOs of world-leading companies often start their day before sunrise, not because they love waking up early, but because they know it gives them a competitive edge. Writers often produce their best work at dawn, free from the noise of the world. Finally, the speaker turns to the entrepreneur and the artist with an unexpected offer. "Meet me tomorrow morning at 5 a.m., he says, "and I'll show you how this can change your life." They're skeptical. 5 in the morning? It sounds extreme. But something about his certainty, the way he speaks as if he's offering them a golden key, makes them consider it. Maybe, just maybe, this is the moment they've been waiting for. And as the first chapter closes, we know, they're standing on the edge of something big. The journey they're about to take will push them, challenge them, and ultimately transform them. And for us as readers, it's a reminder that sometimes the smallest changes, like choosing to rise with the sun, can lead to the biggest transformations. So here's my challenge to you. Before we move on to the next chapter, ask yourself, what would your life look like if you owned your mornings? Not just once or twice, but every single day. Could that extra time become the foundation for your biggest goals? Could it be the edge you've been missing? This is just the beginning of the 5 a.m. Club. In the chapters ahead, we'll dive deeper into the tools, strategies, and mindset shifts that will help you master not only your mornings but your entire life. If you're ready to explore that journey, stay tuned, because what comes next could very well be the blueprint for the future you've always wanted. If you've been following along, you already know we're in the middle of exploring one of the most impactful personal development books of our time, The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. In Chapter 1, we met the burned-out entrepreneur and the blocked artist, and we were introduced to the mysterious billionaire who dropped a powerful truth: own your morning. Elevate your life. In Chapter 2, that promise begins to take shape. The chapter is like a bridge between skepticism and curiosity. It's where the characters, and us, the readers, start to realize that waking up at 5 a.m. is more than just an early alarm clock. It's about rewiring the way we live, work, and create. And in this part of the story, the eccentric billionaire begins to open the door to a new way of thinking. The setting shifts to a quiet, unexpected meeting spot. The entrepreneur and the artist have decided, perhaps against their better judgment, to meet the billionaire at the time he suggested. But there's hesitation in their hearts. Think about it, if someone told you that waking up before sunrise could change everything in your life, wouldn't you be skeptical too? They meet at an unassuming place, far from the corporate offices or art galleries they're used to. The air is crisp. The streets are still. The world feels like it's paused, and that's exactly the point. The billionaire uses this moment to make them feel what most people never experience: the peace, stillness, and clarity that comes when you're awake before the world starts moving. He begins explaining why the early hours are so powerful. He draws parallels to nature, how some of the most majestic animals, like lions, begin their day before the sun rises, using that quiet time to prepare for the challenges ahead. He talks about how ancient civilizations respected the dawn, using it for rituals, reflection, and preparation. It's not just about productivity, it's about connection to self and the world. He then gets personal. The billionaire shares that his wealth, influence, and happiness didn't come from working more hours, it came from working the right hours. He discovered that the first hour of the day could be the single most valuable hour for his growth, his health, and his creativity. Let's relate this to real life. Imagine you're a busy real estate agent, a parent, a student, or an entrepreneur. Your phone starts buzzing at 8 a.m., your inbox fills up, and people start demanding your time. From that moment on, your day is no longer entirely your own, you're responding, reacting, and often just trying to keep up. But if you claim the hour between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m., before those demands begin, you get a private pocket of time that's completely yours. No interruptions, no noise, just focus. And science backs this up. The billionaire explains that in the early morning, your brain operates in a state called alpha waves, which are linked to creativity, calmness, and problem solving. As the day goes on, stress hormones rise, distractions multiply, and your brain shifts into a more reactive mode. But at dawn, you're primed for deep, high-quality thinking. He gives them a challenge: try waking up at 5 a.m. for just 1 week. Use that time to work on yourself, not your emails, not your errands, not your social media. Work on you. He outlines 3 pillars of this hour: movement, reflection, and growth. The movement part might be a brisk walk, stretching, or a workout. He compares it to charging a battery. You wouldn't expect your phone to last all day if you started at 20%, so why start yourself that way? Reflection could be journaling, meditation, or simply sitting in silence to think about your goals. And growth means feeding your mind, reading, studying, or learning something new. To bring it home, he shares a few stories of people he's mentored. One was a CEO who was constantly exhausted and scattered. After committing to the 5 a.m. routine, she used the early hours to review strategy, read leadership books, and meditate. Within 6 months, her company hit record profits, not because she worked more, but because she worked better. Another was an athlete who shifted training to early mornings, avoiding distractions, and getting an edge over competitors. That season, he achieved his personal best. The entrepreneur and the artist are intrigued but still doubtful. What about sleep? They ask. What if I'm just tired all day? The billionaire nods and tells them, this isn't about sleeping less, it's about sleeping smarter. He talks about the importance of winding down at night, reducing screen time, and making the early wake-up a non-negotiable habit. It's not an overnight transformation, it's a process of training your body and mind. He paints a vivid picture of the alternative, the life most people live. Waking up just in time to rush out the door, skipping breakfast, checking messages before even getting out of bed, and spending the rest of the day in a reactive haze. If you want to be like most people, do what most people do, he says. If you want to be extraordinary, do what most people won't. As the chapter closes, the entrepreneur and the artist feel a mix of anticipation and fear. 5 a.m. is calling, and it's not just a time, it's a commitment. They're about to step into a new rhythm, one that could change the way they live forever. And for us, the readers, or in your case, the listeners here on this channel, the question is simple: are you ready to claim the quietest, most powerful hour of the day? Are you willing to give yourself the gift of time, clarity, and focus before the world asks for anything from you? Because here's the truth: every great transformation starts with a small, bold step. And waking up at 5 a.m. might just be yours. If you've been keeping up with this series, you know we've been diving deep into the 5 a.m. Club, not just as a book, but as a blueprint for transforming the way you live, think, and create. In Chapter 1, we met our characters: a struggling entrepreneur, a blocked artist, and the mysterious billionaire who hinted that owning your morning could change everything. In Chapter 2, we began to understand why the early hours are so sacred, that 5 a.m. isn't just a time on the clock, but a gateway to clarity, focus, and personal mastery. Now, in Chapter 3, the story begins to dig into the philosophy behind this lifestyle. The eccentric billionaire starts revealing more about his own journey, the principles that shaped his success, and why most people never unlock their full potential, simply because they're living in reaction, not intention. The setting is still calm and serene. The characters are seated in a quiet, almost timeless place, one of those environments that makes you slow down just by being in it. It could be a hotel lounge, a hidden garden, or a cafe tucked away from the noise of the city. The details aren't as important as the feeling, the stillness that comes from being somewhere untouched by rush-hour chaos. The billionaire leans forward and says something that instantly shifts the mood. Your days are your life in miniature. As you live each day, so you craft your life. Don't live the same day 5,000 times and call it a life. Let's pause on that. Think about your own last week. How many of those days were truly different from the others? How many were consciously designed by you, and how many just happened? It's a sobering thought. He explains that the reason 5 a.m. is so transformative is not because of the number itself, but because it forces you to live on your terms, to break free from autopilot living. When you wake up early and use that time intentionally, you're telling your subconscious, I'm in charge here. To drive his point home, he shares his personal story. Years ago, before he was a billionaire, he was in a spiral of busyness without progress. Meetings stacked on meetings. Endless travel. Zero time for reflection. It was only when he started waking up before dawn, dedicating that time to reading, journaling, exercising, and planning, that he began to see exponential changes in his business and life. And here's where the real-life examples start pouring in. He talks about how some of the world's most successful people, from CEOs to athletes to artists, share this one habit. Apple's Tim Cook is up at 4:30 a.m. to read customer emails and work out. Michelle Obama used early mornings for exercise and mental preparation while living in the White House. Even Winston Churchill, despite not being an early riser in the traditional sense, understood the importance of guarding certain hours for deep work without interruption. The billionaire challenges the entrepreneur and the artist to think about their own mornings. He asks, when you wake up, what's the first thing you do? Check your phone? Scroll through social media? Read the news? If you start your day in reaction mode, you're already giving away your power. He introduces the idea that each morning offers two choices. Be busy being busy, letting the outside world dictate your mood, priorities, and energy. Be intentional, using the early hours to feed your body, mind, and spirit before the demands of the day pull you away. To make it relatable, let's put it in a modern context. Imagine you're a realtor, a student, or a freelancer. You wake up and instantly dive into emails, group chats, or urgent tasks. You're immediately in firefighting mode. By noon, you've already used most of your decision-making energy, and by evening, you're running on fumes. Now imagine an alternative. You wake up at 5 a.m., go for a brisk walk or light workout, write down your top 3 priorities, read 10 pages of a book that inspires you, and review your goals. By the time 8 a.m. rolls around, you've already won the day, before it even began for most people. The billionaire emphasizes that this isn't about adding stress, it's about subtracting the unnecessary. You don't need more time, he says. You need more focus. And the way you get that focus is by giving your best energy to your most important work, which almost never happens when the rest of the world is awake and demanding your attention. He also talks about the emotional side of mornings. He explains that early hours offer something rare in today's world, a sense of peace and control. There's no traffic noise, no buzzing notifications, no endless requests. It's just you and your thoughts. That's when breakthroughs happen. That's when you can connect deeply with your vision for your life without distraction. To make this stick, he shares a powerful analogy. He says, think of your life like a magnificent garden. If you tend to it every morning, watering the plants, pulling out weeds, planting seeds, it will flourish. But if you ignore it, weeds will take over before you even realize it. The 5 a.m. hour is that daily gardening for your soul, mind, and body. By the end of the chapter, the entrepreneur and the artist are no longer dismissing the idea as crazy. They're starting to see it as a secret doorway into a version of themselves they've never fully met. They're beginning to believe that maybe, just maybe, this eccentric billionaire isn't eccentric at all. Maybe he's simply tapped into something the rest of the world is too distracted to notice. And here's where the chapter leaves us, with an open invitation. The billionaire tells them, tomorrow, we begin for real. I'll show you how to use this time so it transforms not just your morning, but your entire life. For us listening right now, this is that same invitation. If you've been curious, hesitant, or even resistant, think about this. What's the cost of not trying? What's the price you're paying for starting your days in a rush, reacting to everyone else's agenda? Because the truth is, your life's direction can pivot in the quiet of one early morning. And maybe, just maybe, tomorrow could be your day one. It's always great to have you here as we continue this deep dive into the 5 a.m. Club. If you've been following along, you already know this isn't just a series about a book, it's a conversation about taking control of your life, mastering your mornings, and living with a sense of purpose that most people never reach. We've walked through the foundation. In Chapter 1, we met the characters whose lives are about to change. In Chapter 2, we explored the sacredness of early hours. In Chapter 3, we uncovered the philosophy behind intentional mornings and saw how the billionaire's wisdom started to reshape the thinking of our entrepreneur and artist. Now, in Chapter 4, things take a practical turn. This is where the story shifts from why to how. The eccentric billionaire begins introducing the structure that will guide the transformation. It's not just about waking up early anymore, it's about what you do with those precious hours. The chapter begins with an unexpected twist. Instead of meeting in their previous location, the characters are whisked away, literally, to a different setting. The billionaire has arranged for them to travel somewhere beautiful, somewhere that embodies the lifestyle he's talking about. Imagine a pristine beach before sunrise, the kind where the horizon is painted in pastel shades of pink and gold, and the air is crisp but gentle. There's a quiet hum of waves meeting the shore, and the sand is cool underfoot. This isn't just scenery, it's part of the lesson. The billionaire explains that environment shapes behavior. If you want to rise to a higher level, you need surroundings that inspire you, not ones that keep you stuck in old patterns. He's intentional about taking them somewhere that forces their minds to slow down, notice details, and feel possibility in the air. Here's the key teaching moment. He introduces what will later become known as the 20/20/20 formula. It's a simple but powerful structure for the first hour of your day, broken into 3 20-minute blocks. We don't get all the details yet, he teases it, but the message is clear: the early morning is too valuable to leave to chance. Before explaining the formula fully, he focuses on mindset. He tells them, and by extension, us, that the way you think about mornings is the way you think about your life. If you see mornings as a burden, chances are you see challenges in life as something to be endured rather than embraced. But if you see mornings as a gift, as a blank canvas, you'll start to see each day as an opportunity to create something extraordinary. He uses a real-life parallel. Think of athletes who train before the sun comes up. Michael Phelps, for example, famously trained 2 to 3 times a day, starting early, because he understood that discipline wasn't about the clock, it was about building an identity. Early mornings are not just about productivity, they're about becoming the kind of person who does the hard things first, without excuses. The billionaire then shares his own struggle with mornings. He admits he wasn't always an early riser. There was a time when he valued sleep over self-development, where late nights blurred into late mornings. But he noticed something: the later he woke up, the more life seemed to be on someone else's terms. His day would start in reaction mode, phone buzzing, people demanding his attention, and by noon, he'd already lost the best window for deep work and personal renewal. Changing that pattern didn't just change his mornings, it changed his destiny. To make it relatable, he turns to the entrepreneur and artist and asks, if you were given 1 extra hour a day to work on nothing but your dreams, what would you do with it? The question lingers. For the entrepreneur, it could mean strategizing on a new business venture without interruption. For the artist, it could mean creating in pure flow, without worrying about deadlines or distractions. And then comes the wake-up call for us, the listeners. He says, you already have that hour. It's just on the other side of an earlier alarm clock. It's such a simple truth, yet most of us overlook it because we think waking up earlier is taking something away from us. In reality, it's giving something back: time, clarity, control. The billionaire then highlights the concept of victory hour. This is the first hour after you wake up, and he frames it as the most important hour of your life. If you win this hour, you win the day, he says. And winning doesn't mean filling it with emails or rushing to get ready, it means dedicating it entirely to activities that strengthen your body, mind, and spirit. He shares examples. Body, light exercise to wake up your system and flood your brain with feel-good neurochemicals. It could be as simple as stretching, yoga, or a brisk walk. Mind, reading or journaling to feed your intellect and clarify your thinking. Spirit, meditation, gratitude practice, or reflection to ground yourself emotionally. Each of these might seem small, but together, they create momentum that carries into the rest of the day. To reinforce this, he uses a metaphor. Imagine you're launching a rocket. The first few seconds of liftoff require the most energy. Once you're in the air, momentum takes over. Your morning is that launch. If you invest high energy and intentionality into it, the rest of your day flows more smoothly. But if you start sluggish, distracted, or reactive, it's like trying to get a rocket off the ground with half the fuel. The chapter also touches on the resistance you'll face. The billionaire warns them, and us, that the first few weeks of waking up early will be hard. Your body will resist, your mind will make excuses. But this discomfort is part of the process. All change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end, he says. To make this real, he shares stories of people he's mentored. One was a single mother balancing work and night classes who thought she could never fit in time for herself. When she committed to waking up an hour earlier, she used that time to exercise and plan her day. Within months, her energy improved, her confidence grew, and her ability to manage stress skyrocketed. Another was a young startup founder who used early mornings to map out business strategies. Those quiet hours became his competitive edge. By the end of Chapter 4, the entrepreneur and artist aren't just curious anymore, they're intrigued, inspired, and maybe a little impatient to start. The beach setting, the new concepts, the promise of a clear formula, it all builds anticipation. The billionaire assures them that in the coming chapters, he'll break down exactly what to do in those first 60 minutes, step by step. For us, the takeaway is simple but powerful. The 5 a.m. habit isn't just about time, it's about identity. Every time you wake up early and own that first hour, you're casting a vote for the person you want to become. And over time, those votes shape your destiny. So as you finish this chapter, ask yourself, what would I do with my victory hour tomorrow morning? And better yet, am I ready to find out? It's always a pleasure to have you join us on this journey through the 5 a.m. Club. If you've been following along, you know we're not just summarizing a book, we're peeling back the layers of a philosophy that can truly rewire your life. This isn't theory, this is practical wisdom you can live by. In Chapter 1, we met the unlikely trio, the billionaire, the artist, and the entrepreneur, and saw the spark of transformation begin. In Chapter 2, we discovered the sacred quietude of the early hours. Chapter 3 brought us deeper into the mindset required to protect those hours. Chapter 4 gave us a glimpse of the victory hour concept and teased the structure that could make our mornings truly life-changing. Now, in Chapter 5, the story starts delivering on that promise. This is where the billionaire reveals the 20/20/20 formula in full, a structured, science-backed approach to owning your first hour of the day and using it to fuel your body, sharpen your mind, and strengthen your spirit. The setting is still breathtaking. The sun is just breaking the horizon, painting the sky in shades of amber and gold. Our three characters stand barefoot in the sand, coffee cups warming their hands. The billionaire wastes no time. He tells them, if you want to live like the top 5% of people, you must start doing what 95% are unwilling to do. And that begins with how you use the first hour after waking. He explains the 20/20/20 formula. First 20 minutes, move. The moment you wake up, you must do something physical. Not later, not after you check your phone, immediately. Why? Because moving your body floods your brain with dopamine, serotonin, and BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which enhances brain function and mood. Your heart rate rises, oxygen floods your system, and you literally shake off the cobwebs of sleep. The billionaire uses relatable examples. He points to elite athletes, like Serena Williams or Cristiano Ronaldo, who start their day with movement because it primes their minds for focus and decision-making. But he also mentions everyday people, a teacher who does 20 minutes of yoga before preparing lessons, or a parent who walks briskly around the block while the rest of the family sleeps. It's not about becoming a professional athlete, it's about conditioning your brain and body for peak performance. Second 20 minutes, reflect. Once your body is energized, it's time to center your mind. These 20 minutes are for reflection, journaling, meditating, praying, or simply sitting quietly to think. The billionaire shares how he uses this time to review his goals, check in with his values, and set his intentions for the day. He tells the artist and entrepreneur that reflection isn't a nice to have, it's essential. In a noisy, fast-paced world, most people never pause long enough to ask themselves, am I heading in the right direction? These quiet moments create clarity, and clarity leads to better decisions. He shares the story of a busy executive who felt like life was running her instead of the other way around. When she began using the reflection block every morning, she noticed patterns, certain meetings that drained her, certain people who lifted her up. Within months, she reorganized her schedule to focus more on what truly mattered, and her productivity and happiness soared. Third 20 minutes, grow. The final block is about learning. The billionaire emphasizes that if you're not growing, you're stagnating. He suggests reading books, listening to educational podcasts, or studying material that stretches your thinking. He uses an analogy: your mind is like a garden. If you don't plant new, nourishing seeds, weeds, in the form of negative thoughts, outdated beliefs, and unproductive habits, will take over. This block is your daily gardening. He gives a personal example. In his early career, he read for at least 20 minutes every morning, biographies of leaders, books on philosophy, and cutting-edge research in psychology. That steady input of wisdom compounded over years, giving him a mental toolkit few could match. The characters listen, intrigued but also skeptical. The artist wonders if this formula is too rigid. The billionaire smiles and explains that structure actually creates freedom. By front-loading your day with activities that fuel you, you free yourself from the chaos of reacting to the world's demands. He compares it to building a fortress around your genius. Without the 20/20/20 formula, your genius is exposed to the noise, distractions, and demands of the day. With it, you start every morning in a state of strength, clarity, and inspiration, ready to bring your best self to whatever comes next. The entrepreneur asks, what about people who say they don't have time? The billionaire chuckles. We all have time. We just choose where to spend it. Trade 60 minutes of late-night scrolling for 60 minutes of early morning mastery, and watch your life change. He challenges them, and us, to try it for 66 days, referring to research that shows it takes that long to lock in a new habit. The first 22 days will be hard, the next 22 will feel messy as your old habits fight back, but the final 22 will be when it clicks, when the new routine becomes part of who you are. The chapter closes with the characters feeling both daunted and excited. They realize this isn't just about mornings, it's about self-respect. It's about telling yourself you're worth the effort, worth the discipline, worth the discomfort of change. So, as you finish this chapter, ask yourself. If you started every day by moving your body, reflecting on your purpose, and growing your mind, what would your life look like 6 months from now? A year? 5 years? The answer is simple, it would be unrecognizable. And that is the gift of the 20/20/20 formula. It's not magic. It's method. But in the hands of someone willing to commit, it feels like magic. It's always an honor to have you here as we continue our journey through the 5 a.m. Club. This isn't just about reading a book, it's about learning a blueprint for mastering your mornings, so you can master your life. So far, we've met the eccentric billionaire, the struggling artist, and the driven entrepreneur. We've discovered the sacred stillness of early mornings, explored the mindset shifts needed to protect them, and learned the powerful 20/20/20 formula that can transform our first hour of the day into a launchpad for success. Now, in Chapter 6, the billionaire goes deeper, revealing the science behind his morning philosophy and showing why this isn't just motivation, but a method rooted in neuroscience and psychology. This is where inspiration meets hard evidence, giving our characters, and us, undeniable reasons to commit. The setting has shifted to a beautiful terrace overlooking the ocean. The sound of waves is steady and calming, but the air between the characters is electric with curiosity. The billionaire begins by explaining something he calls the twin cycles of elite performance. He says most people think success comes from working harder and longer, more hours, fewer breaks, constant hustle. But in reality, our bodies and minds don't work that way. We are designed to perform in cycles, periods of intense focus followed by deliberate rest. He uses the example of top athletes. Usain Bolt didn't train at maximum speed all day. He worked in bursts, then recovered. Musicians, too, a world-class pianist practices in focused intervals, not in endless marathon sessions. The same applies to entrepreneurs, artists, or anyone striving for greatness. The billionaire explains that the 5 a.m. routine is powerful because it starts your day in a high-performance state, and if you respect your natural cycles, working deeply, then resting fully, you can sustain peak performance without burnout. The artist asks, but what about people who say they're not morning people? The billionaire smiles. He explains that being a morning person is not genetic destiny, it's a trained habit. The human body adapts to patterns. Just as jet lag fades when you stay in a new time zone, your body can shift to an earlier wake-up time if you train it consistently. He gives a relatable example, a friend who used to stay up until 1 a.m., scrolling through social media. When she committed to waking at 5 a.m., the first week was brutal. But after 3 weeks, her body naturally began feeling tired earlier, her sleep quality improved, and she found herself waking up before the alarm, with more energy than she'd had in years. The key, he says, is sleep discipline, going to bed early, avoiding screens before bed, and treating rest as a vital part of performance, not a luxury. From here, the billionaire dives into the 4 interior empires, a framework that goes beyond just mindset. He says personal mastery isn't just about your psychology, it's about the balance of these 4 empires. Mindset, your thoughts, beliefs, and mental patterns. Heart set, your emotional life and ability to feel gratitude, empathy, and love. Health set, your physical well-being, energy, and vitality. Soul set, your connection to purpose, spirituality, and inner peace. He stresses that too many people focus only on mindset, reading motivational quotes, attending seminars, but ignore the other 3. A sharp mind won't help you if your emotions are in chaos, your body is neglected, or your spirit feels empty. To make it relatable, he gives examples. A CEO who built a billion-dollar company but burned out because he ignored his health. An artist with incredible talent but whose emotional wounds kept her from finishing projects. A teacher who cared deeply for her students but neglected her own spiritual renewal, leading to resentment and exhaustion. The lesson? All 4 empires must be nurtured daily, and the 5 a.m. routine creates the space to do just that. The entrepreneur then asks, how do you actually balance these 4? The billionaire explains that the 20/20/20 formula is designed for exactly this. Movement strengthens health set. Reflection strengthens heart set and soul set. Learning strengthens mindset. He says most people live like firefighters, constantly reacting to emergencies. But elite performers live like architects, designing their day with intention. By focusing on these 4 areas first thing in the morning, you don't leave your growth to chance, you lock it in before the world even wakes up. Finally, the billionaire shares one more critical truth: your morning is a mirror for your life. If your mornings are rushed, reactive, and chaotic, it's likely your days, and life, feel the same. But if your mornings are calm, focused, and intentional, you'll carry that energy into everything you do. He tells the artist and entrepreneur that change is hard at first, messy in the middle, but beautiful at the end. And when you stick with it long enough, you'll wake up one day and realize you've not only transformed your mornings, you've transformed who you are. As the chapter ends, the sun is now high in the sky. The characters feel a mix of excitement and quiet resolve. They realize they've been given not just a philosophy, but a scientifically backed system, one that, if practiced with discipline, can elevate every part of their lives. And that's where we leave them for now, standing on that terrace, looking out at the endless horizon, and realizing that the only limits they face are the ones they accept. If you start practicing the 4 interior empires and respecting your natural performance cycles, your productivity, happiness, and energy will grow exponentially. This isn't about doing more, it's about becoming more. And that begins tomorrow morning, at 5 a.m. If you've been following along, you know that this journey through the 5 a.m. Club is more than just a book summary, it's a deep dive into a life-changing philosophy. We're not just reading, we're integrating. Each chapter has given us not only concepts, but tools to shape our mornings, elevate our performance, and ultimately transform our lives. Today, we're stepping into Chapter 7, where Robin Sharma takes us deeper into the mindset of elite achievers. This is where the lessons shift from what to do, to who you must become in the process. The chapter opens with the artist and the entrepreneur feeling the mental weight of all they've learned so far. They've been introduced to the 20/20/20 formula, the 4 interior empires, and the twin cycles of elite performance. But now, the billionaire tells them, none of that will matter unless they master self-identity. He explains a profound truth. Your daily behavior will never rise above your self-image. If you see yourself as someone who's always tired, always late, or not a morning person, your brain will unconsciously create behaviors to match that identity. This isn't laziness, it's neuroscience. Your subconscious mind works tirelessly to keep your reality consistent with your beliefs about yourself. The billionaire gives a relatable example. Imagine 2 people trying to quit smoking. Both are offered a cigarette. The first says, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit." The second says, "No thanks, I don't smoke." The difference? The first still identifies as a smoker, someone fighting against their nature. The second has adopted a new identity, someone who simply does not smoke. That shift in self-definition changes everything. Similarly, if you want to wake up at 5 a.m. consistently, you must stop telling yourself, "I'm not a morning person," and start owning the identity, "I am the kind of person who values the early morning for growth." The conversation then moves into the habit installation protocol, a step-by-step understanding of how new habits truly stick. The billionaire warns against the common belief that habits are easy to form in 21 days. The truth, backed by research, is that lasting change happens in 3 phases. Destruction phase, days 1 to 22, the old habit fights back. Waking at 5 a.m. feels unnatural, even painful. You'll feel resistance, excuses, and the pull of comfort. Installation phase, days 23 to 66, the old habit is gone, but the new one is still shaky. You may slip up, and it feels awkward, but you're rewiring your brain. Integration phase, day 67 onward, the new habit becomes part of who you are. It no longer requires willpower, it's automatic. The billionaire uses the analogy of renovating a house. First, you demolish what doesn't work, destruction, then you rebuild the structure, installation, and finally, you decorate and live in it naturally, integration. To make this real, he shares the story of a CEO he mentored. This man had no morning routine, skipped breakfast, and went straight into stressful emails each day. When he tried the 5 a.m. habit, the first month was rough. He hit snooze, grumbled through workouts, and sometimes relapsed into sleeping late. But by month 3, the change was remarkable. He was fitter, calmer, and his company's productivity rose because his own focus improved. The key takeaway: you don't become an elite performer by avoiding discomfort, you become one by training yourself to thrive in it. The billionaire also reminds them of something crucial: environment is stronger than willpower. If you want to stick to your habits, you need to design your surroundings to make success easier and failure harder. Want to exercise at 5 a.m.? Lay out your workout clothes the night before. Want to read? Keep a book on your nightstand instead of your phone. Want to avoid junk food? Don't bring it into the house in the first place. He compares it to gardening. If you want flowers to grow, you don't just wish them into existence. You prepare the soil, ensure the right light, and protect them from weeds. Your habits are the same. The artist reflects on how her old environment, late-night socializing, cluttered workspace, and friends who slept until noon, made it almost impossible to live differently. The billionaire nods and explains that success is rarely about adding more willpower, it's about subtracting the friction that holds you back. Toward the end of the chapter, the billionaire shifts from strategy to heart. He tells them that the 5 a.m. habit isn't just about productivity, it's about owning your mornings so you can own your life. He shares a deeply personal story. Years ago, he too lived in chaos, late nights, reactive mornings, constant stress. It wasn't until he began protecting his first hour of the day that everything changed. His health improved, his creativity exploded, and his relationships deepened. And it all started by redefining who he was in his own eyes. As the chapter closes, the sun is setting over the ocean. The artist and entrepreneur are quiet, each lost in thought. They realize that waking up early, training their mind, and nurturing their 4 empires are all just branches of something deeper, becoming the kind of person who naturally lives that way. The billionaire leaves them with one final challenge for the day. Don't just do the 5 a.m. habit. Become the 5 a.m. habit. If you can see yourself as that person, disciplined, intentional, committed, you'll start making choices that match that vision. And soon, you'll wake up one morning and realize, you've been living it all along. If you've been following our series, you know this isn't just a collection of chapter summaries, it's a transformation journey. Every chapter of the 5 a.m. Club has been peeling back another layer of what it takes to live intentionally, perform at the highest level, and protect your genius. Today, we step into Chapter 8, a powerful section where Robin Sharma shifts the focus from what we do in the early hours to why we must guard them fiercely. This is where the philosophy of the 5 a.m. habit meets the reality of distractions, temptations, and life's relentless demands. The chapter begins with the billionaire reminding the artist and entrepreneur of a truth they've heard before but perhaps never absorbed deeply. Victory belongs to the most disciplined. He explains that no matter how much talent, ambition, or opportunity you have, if you cannot defend your focus and protect your time, the world will steal your greatness one small distraction at a time. He uses a vivid analogy: imagine your mind as a smartphone with a limited battery. If you keep dozens of apps running in the background, checking emails, scrolling social media, reacting to news alerts, by midday your mental energy is drained. You may be awake, but your capacity to do deep, meaningful work is gone. The billionaire calls this the myth of multitasking. He explains that multitasking isn't actually doing many things at once, it's rapidly switching between tasks. And every switch carries a mental cost. Scientists call it attention residue. Every time you shift your focus, a small part of your brain remains stuck on the previous task, making you slower, less accurate, and far less creative. To make it relatable, he shares the example of a novelist he once coached. She would write for 10 minutes, check her phone for 2 minutes, answer an email, then try to write again. She couldn't understand why her novel wasn't progressing. Once she began protecting her mornings for uninterrupted deep work, no phone, no email, no internet, her productivity tripled, and she finished the manuscript months ahead of schedule. The conversation then turns to the tight bubble of total focus, a concept that becomes a cornerstone of the billionaire's teaching. This bubble is a period of time where you completely isolate yourself from distractions and immerse yourself in a single, high-value activity. The 5 a.m. hour is the perfect time for this, because the world is still asleep, your phone is quiet, and your mind is fresh. The billionaire tells them that the world will try to pull them into its noise, and that if they don't consciously design a bubble of focus, they'll unconsciously live in a storm of interruptions. He even shares his own morning ritual. First 20 minutes, intense exercise to activate dopamine and serotonin. Next 20 minutes, reflection, journaling, gratitude, and reviewing long-term goals. Final 20 minutes, growth, reading a great book, studying a new skill, or strategizing a major project. He guards this bubble as fiercely as a CEO guards a billion-dollar deal. The entrepreneur admits that in his normal life, mornings are chaos. He wakes up, checks his phone, sees urgent work messages, and suddenly he's already stressed before breakfast. The billionaire smiles knowingly and says, "That's because you've let other people's priorities hijack your day before you've even set your own." Here's where Robin Sharma weaves in a key psychological truth. Our willpower is like a muscle, strongest in the morning and weaker as the day goes on. If you use your early hours to work on the things that matter most, you're investing your best energy into your highest priorities. If you waste those hours reacting to others, you're giving away your best self for free. The chapter also explores the 3-step victory loop, a cycle the billionaire uses to maintain peak performance. Learn, absorb world-class knowledge. Implement, apply that knowledge with discipline. Grow, review and refine your actions to improve next time. He compares it to training for a marathon. You don't just run randomly, you study techniques, follow a training plan, and reflect on each run to adjust your approach. To make it even more relatable, he tells the story of a tech entrepreneur who adopted the 5 a.m. habit. Instead of using early mornings to check investor emails, he spent the first hour each day designing his company's long-term vision and solving core product problems. That single shift, protecting his tight bubble, became the competitive advantage that helped his company outpace rivals. By the end of the chapter, the message is clear. It's not enough to wake up early, you must defend that time like your future depends on it, because in many ways, it does. The billionaire leaves them with one last piece of advice. Your days are your life in miniature. As you live your hours, so you craft your destiny. Guard your mornings, and you'll own your life. If you've been following our series on the 5 a.m. Club, you know that we're not just talking about waking up early, we're talking about rewriting the way we live. Each chapter we've explored so far has built another layer in this blueprint for mastery, and today, we're entering Chapter 9, where the ideas start blending into a complete philosophy for sustained greatness. Chapter 9 begins with the billionaire leading the artist and entrepreneur into a deeper conversation about what he calls the twin cycles of elite performance. He explains that life at the highest level isn't about going full speed all the time, in fact, it's the opposite. Greatness comes from mastering the rhythm between two essential phases. The high excellence cycle, when you're pushing, producing, creating, and delivering at your absolute best. The deep recovery cycle, when you're recharging your energy, reflecting, and allowing your mind and body to repair. To make it relatable, he compares it to elite athletes. A world-class sprinter doesn't run at top speed every single day. They train hard, then rest deeply. That's how their muscles repair, their nervous system resets, and their performance improves. The same principle applies to entrepreneurs, artists, leaders, anyone chasing excellence. Here's the trap most people fall into: they live in a constant high excellence cycle without enough recovery. They keep pushing, more work, more hustle, more deadlines, until their creativity burns out, their health suffers, and their relationships weaken. The billionaire calls this the death spiral of overperformance. He shares the story of a young CEO who was growing her startup rapidly. For 2 years, she worked 16-hour days, slept little, and skipped vacations. Her company became a success, but she started experiencing panic attacks, chronic fatigue, and memory loss. She was operating in permanent performance mode without refueling. When she finally took a month-long break, no emails, no meetings, she came back sharper, more inspired, and with a vision that propelled the company to its next level. The billionaire turns to the artist and says, "Your creativity is a fragile resource. You must protect it by alternating between intense creation and intentional rest. Otherwise, you'll spend your life producing average work because your genius never gets a chance to fully recover." He then draws a mental model, two loops forming an infinity symbol, representing the constant flow between performance and recovery. And here's where Chapter 9 gets practical. The billionaire breaks down the 20/20/20 formula they've been practicing at 5 a.m., explaining how it not only launches the day but also helps sustain the performance recovery rhythm. First 20 minutes, move, exercise triggers endorphins, clears cortisol, and wakes up the brain. Next 20 minutes, reflect, journaling, meditation, or prayer creates clarity. Final 20 minutes, grow, learning keeps your mind sharp and adaptable. He emphasizes that how you start your day determines the energy curve you'll ride for the next 16 hours. Now, the billionaire makes the discussion personal. He asks the entrepreneur, "When was the last time you worked with so much joy and focus that hours flew by?" The entrepreneur thinks back to a time before constant email pings and business pressure, when he was first building his company in a small garage, fully absorbed in problem solving. That was his natural flow state. The billionaire nods and says, "The twin cycles are designed to keep you in that state more often, energized, inspired, and deeply present. But you can't stay in flow if you never rest." He illustrates with another real-world example. A famous architect known for designing some of the world's most innovative buildings follows an unusual work pattern. For 6 weeks, she works at an intense pace, often 12 hours a day, deeply involved in the design process. Then, she disappears for 2 weeks, no phone, no laptop, just travel, art, and nature. She returns with groundbreaking ideas that shape her next projects. The point? Recovery is not wasted time. It's investment time. The artist, still skeptical, asks, "But isn't it risky to slow down when everyone else is pushing harder?" The billionaire answers with a metaphor: if a farmer never lets his soil rest, the crops will grow weaker each year. In the short term, it looks like he's producing more. In the long term, he destroys the land. Your mind and body are the same. He also warns about the myth of balance. Many people try to balance work and life equally every day, but that's not how elite performance works. There will be seasons of intense focus and seasons of deep renewal. The key is to be intentional about which season you're in. For example, in a product launch month, you may be in the high excellence cycle, pushing harder than usual. After that, you intentionally schedule a recovery period, a week of lighter work, creative hobbies, more family time, and physical rest. As the sun begins to rise, the billionaire sums up Chapter 9's essence. The greatest lives are not lived at one constant speed. They are a dance between fierce output and fearless rest. Protect both cycles, and you will sustain greatness for decades, not just a few short years. He leaves them with a challenge. Over the next month, track your days. Notice when your energy peaks and when it dips. Then, instead of pushing through the dips, experiment with recovery, a walk in nature, a nap, an afternoon reading, or a weekend without screens. Watch how much more powerful your high-performance days become. And with that, Chapter 9 closes, a chapter not just about productivity, but about sustainability. About building a life where your best work is not a rare burst of inspiration, but a natural result of living in harmony with your body, mind, and spirit. If you've been with us from the start of this journey through the 5 a.m. club, you know by now that this book isn't just about getting up early, it's about completely rewiring how you live, think, and create. Each chapter peels back another layer, revealing principles that can elevate not just your mornings, but your entire life. Today, we're diving into Chapter 10, where the focus shifts toward building unshakable habits that last. The billionaire, artist, and entrepreneur have already mastered the early morning routine, but now, the billionaire wants them to understand why most people fail to make good habits stick, and how they can succeed where others give up. The chapter opens with the billionaire sharing a truth that many ignore. You don't get to world class by doing something once in a while. You get there by doing it consistently, especially on the days you don't feel like it. He explains that anyone can be motivated for a few days or weeks. But sustained transformation requires understanding the psychology of habit installation. He introduces what he calls the 66-day minimum, the idea that, based on research from University College London, it takes an average of 66 days for a new habit to become automatic. He warns, however, that this process isn't linear or easy. There are 3 distinct stages. Destruction phase: the old habit is being dismantled, and your brain resists the change. This is uncomfortable because your subconscious mind loves the familiar, even if the familiar isn't good for you. Installation phase: you're caught between the old and the new. This is the hardest part. You'll want to quit because the discomfort peaks here. Integration phase: the new habit becomes part of your identity. It no longer feels forced, it's who you are. To make this real, the billionaire shares a story about one of his ments, a best-selling author who wanted to start exercising daily. In the first 2 weeks, she hated it. She made excuses: travel, weather, deadlines. This was her destruction phase. But she pushed through, reminding herself that she wasn't just building a fitness habit, she was building the muscle of discipline. By week 4, she entered the installation phase. This was the make or break moment. She felt sore, busy, and tired. But instead of giving in, she anchored her workouts to something she already did every day, making her morning coffee. As soon as she brewed it, she'd put on her workout gear. That small trigger kept her consistent. By week 9, she was in the integration phase. Exercise wasn't something she had to do, it was simply part of her morning. Missing it felt as strange as not brushing her teeth. The billionaire tells the artist and entrepreneur. This is how world-class habits are forged, not in the moments when it's easy, but in the moments when it's hard. He then relates it to business and creativity. The entrepreneur must install the habit of deep strategic thinking every morning, not just when the market is calm. The artist must install the habit of daily creation, even when inspiration feels far away. To drive the lesson deeper, the billionaire uses a real-life example from sports. He talks about Kobe Bryant, who was known for arriving at the gym at 4:30 a.m., years into his career. It wasn't because he needed to at that stage, it was because he'd hardwired the habit so deeply that skipping it wasn't an option. That's why Kobe stayed at the top long after others had faded. The conversation then shifts to identity-based habits. The billionaire points out that real change happens when you stop saying, "I'm trying to be fit," and start saying, "I am a fit person." When your habits align with your identity, consistency becomes effortless. For example, if you see yourself as a disciplined leader, showing up early to meetings is automatic. If you see yourself as a lifelong learner, reading daily isn't a chore, it's who you are. The artist admits that in the past, she's tried to change her life overnight, only to burn out. The billionaire smiles and says, small daily improvements, over time, lead to stunning results. But you must give them time to root. He asks them both to reflect. What's one habit they've always wanted but never committed to? What's one bad habit they've allowed to stay for too long? The chapter ends with the billionaire's challenge. For the next 66 days, pick one high-value habit and install it using this process. Protect it like it's your most important meeting. And remember, greatness is less about intensity and more about consistency. As the sun sets on another lesson, the artist and entrepreneur realize this isn't just about 5 a.m., it's about mastering the art of deliberate living. Because when habits are designed with intention and installed with discipline, your life begins to transform automatically. If you're enjoying this journey through the 5 a.m. Club, stay tuned, because in the next chapter, the lessons become even more profound, blending productivity with purpose in a way that can reshape your entire future. If you've been following this series, you know that the 5 a.m. Club isn't just about an early alarm, it's about building a life of mastery, purpose, and impact. We've journeyed through lessons on discipline, habit formation, mindset, and peak performance. Now, in Chapter 11, Robin Sharma takes us deeper into the heart of personal greatness by introducing the concept of the 4 interior empires, the inner foundations that fuel lasting success in every area of life. The billionaire tells the artist and entrepreneur, "You can have all the outer success in the world, money, fame, recognition, but if your inner world is weak, everything will eventually collapse." He explains that most people focus only on external goals, more money, better possessions, higher status, without realizing that the true fuel for all of this comes from within. He uses a simple metaphor: imagine a tall skyscraper. The part you see above ground is only possible because of the deep, solid foundation below. If the foundation is weak, the entire building is at risk. Your life works the same way. These 4 interior empires are: mindset, your psychology, beliefs, and thinking patterns. Heart set, your emotional life, healing, and capacity for empathy. Health set, your physical vitality and energy. Soul set, your spiritual life and connection to purpose. The billionaire warns that society overvalues mindset, the intellectual and strategic part of success, while undervaluing the other 3. Yet, without a strong heart set, you'll carry emotional wounds that cloud your decisions. Without health set, your energy will collapse under the weight of ambition. Without soul set, you'll lose yourself chasing empty goals. To make this real, he shares a story about a tech CEO he once coached. On the outside, this man was a success story, leading a billion-dollar company, admired by peers, featured on magazine covers. But inside, he was exhausted, lonely, and disconnected from what mattered most. His marriage was on the brink, his health was failing, and his inner peace was non-existent. The billionaire guided him through a year-long process of working on all 4 empires. Therapy and journaling for heart-set healing. Strict sleep and nutrition habits for health-set recovery. Meditation and gratitude rituals for soul-set renewal. Within a year, not only had his business grown even more, but he felt happier, lighter, and truly fulfilled for the first time in decades. The artist and entrepreneur begin to see how these empires can be applied to their own lives. The entrepreneur realizes she's been running on adrenaline for years, ignoring her health and inner peace. The artist sees that her self-doubt and emotional pain from the past have been blocking her creative genius. The billionaire emphasizes, "If you work only on the outer game, you'll burn out. Work on the inner game, and the outer game will take care of itself." He then gives them a daily practice to grow all 4 empires. For mindset, spend 20 minutes reading something that stretches your thinking or solving complex problems. For heart set, journal about unresolved emotions, practice forgiveness, and connect with loved ones. For health set, move your body daily, whether it's gym training, yoga, or even a long walk. For soul set, meditate, pray, or spend quiet time in nature to connect with something greater than yourself. The billionaire adds a powerful reminder. The outer world is always a reflection of the inner world. If your inner world is messy, your results will be messy. If your inner world is clean, your results will be exceptional. He shares a relatable analogy: think of a smartphone. If the software is full of bugs, the phone crashes no matter how beautiful the hardware is. Your mind, heart, body, and soul are your software. Keep them updated, clean, and optimized, and your hardware, your career, relationships, and wealth, will perform flawlessly. By the end of Chapter 11, the artist and entrepreneur understand that true mastery is holistic. Success is not just about doing more, but about being more present, more healthy, more compassionate, more connected. The billionaire leaves them with this closing challenge. For the next 7 days, work on all 4 empires daily. Even if it's just 10 minutes for each. You'll be shocked at how quickly your external results begin to shift when your inner world is in harmony. In the next chapter, these lessons will start merging into an even bigger framework, one that will connect the power of 5 a.m. with your deepest life purpose. This is where transformation becomes permanent. We're nearing the end of our deep dive into the 5 a.m. Club, and if you've been following along, you already know that this isn't just a book, it's a life blueprint. We've explored how waking up early can transform your productivity, creativity, health, and overall fulfillment. In the last chapter, we unlocked the 4 interior empires, the hidden pillars of personal greatness. Now, in Chapter 12, Robin Sharma brings these concepts into a daily practice, what he calls the 20/20/20 formula. This is the heart of the 5 a.m. Club, a morning routine so powerful and simple that, if you commit to it, it can genuinely change the trajectory of your life. The billionaire explains to the artist and entrepreneur that most people sabotage their days in the first hour after waking up. Instead of consciously setting the tone, they scroll through social media, check emails, or linger in bed. He calls this the victory hour, the first 60 minutes of your day, and it is the single most valuable hour you have. Why? Because in that first hour, your brain is fresh, your willpower is at its highest, and your subconscious mind is most open to suggestion. Whatever you do in that hour creates a ripple effect for the rest of the day. The 20/20/20 formula divides this hour into 3 equal parts. Move, 20 minutes, intense physical activity to activate your body and brain. Reflect, 20 minutes, quiet time to plan, journal, meditate, and set intentions. Grow, 20 minutes, learning something new to expand your skills and knowledge. First 20 minutes, move. The billionaire says, start your day sweaty. This isn't just a fitness tip, it's neuroscience. Exercise floods your brain with dopamine and serotonin, chemicals linked to motivation and happiness. It also releases BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which repairs brain cells and boosts learning capacity. Life example, imagine 2 people, both have demanding jobs. One wakes up at 7:30, grabs coffee, and rushes to work. The other wakes at 5 a.m., does 20 minutes of HIIT training, and showers. By 8 a.m., the second person is alert, focused, and brimming with energy, while the first is still shaking off morning fog. Over a month, the difference in performance, mood, and decision-making is huge. Second 20 minutes, reflect. The billionaire stresses that if you don't set your intentions, the world will set them for you. These 20 minutes are for stillness, meditation, prayer, journaling, gratitude lists, or reviewing your goals. This is where you align your daily actions with your long-term vision. Life example, an entrepreneur might spend this time visualizing their dream business and writing down 3 key priorities for the day. A parent might reflect on how to show up with more patience and love for their children. A realtor, like in your world, might journal about the kind of client relationships they want to build, instead of just chasing transactions. Third 20 minutes, grow. The final block is about feeding your mind. Read a book, listen to a podcast, watch an online course, anything that builds your expertise and stretches your thinking. Life example, a teacher could spend this time reading about innovative teaching methods. A musician might watch a masterclass from a great performer. You, as a real estate leader, could study negotiation tactics or marketing trends. Over time, this turns you into a powerhouse of knowledge, giving you an edge that compounds year after year. The billionaire explains that the power of the 20/20/20 formula is not just in what you do, but in how consistently you do it. Doing it once won't change your life, doing it every day for a year will. He compares it to compound interest. A dollar invested daily doesn't seem like much, but over time it grows into a fortune. Your daily habits are exactly the same. One of the most relatable examples he gives is of a young lawyer he mentored. At first, she resisted waking at 5 a.m. She was a night owl, always working late. But she committed to the victory hour for 90 days. The results? She closed more cases, got promoted, and, most importantly, felt calmer and happier. She told him, "It's like I finally caught up to myself. I'm not chasing the day anymore, I'm leading it." By the end of the chapter, the artist and entrepreneur realized that waking up early isn't the end goal, it's the doorway to a bigger transformation. The victory hour, powered by the 20/20/20 formula, becomes the engine that fuels everything else: better health, deeper focus, stronger relationships, and a sense of purpose. The billionaire leaves them, and us, with this challenge. Own your mornings and you'll own your life. Try the 20/20/20 formula for 66 days straight. You'll never want to go back to the way you were before. And as we move into the next chapter, we'll see how these daily rituals begin to weave into the broader philosophy of living like a true master, where your days are intentional, your actions deliberate, and your life an expression of your highest potential. If you've been with me throughout this journey through the 5 a.m. Club, you already know that each chapter builds on the last, layer by layer, like a blueprint for living your most intentional, empowered, and fulfilling life. In the last chapter, we explored the 20/20/20 formula, a practical structure for owning your mornings through movement, reflection, and growth. Today, in chapter 13, Robin Sharma takes things a step further. He introduces a concept that ensures your habits and rituals don't just spark short bursts of improvement but evolve into lasting mastery. This chapter is all about the twin cycles of elite performance, a model that explains why top performers in any field don't just work hard, they also recover deeply. And when you understand this, you'll see why so many ambitious people burn out while others continue to rise, year after year. The billionaire's lesson. In the story, the billionaire takes the artist and entrepreneur to a beautiful setting, a peaceful beach at sunrise. He explains that nature works in cycles: tides come in, tides go out. Seasons change from growth to rest. Even our heartbeat alternates between contraction and expansion. And yet, many of us ignore this wisdom in our work and personal lives. We think success comes from constant hustle, grinding every day without pause. But in reality, elite performance is created by moving between high excellence cycles, intense work, and deep recovery cycles, true rest. The high excellence cycle. This is where you push yourself, the period of focused, high-intensity effort where you produce your best work. It's where athletes train for a competition, entrepreneurs launch a new project, or students prepare for exams. You're using your willpower, creativity, and energy reserves to their fullest. Real-life example. Think of a realtor during peak buying season. You're showing homes all day, negotiating late into the evening, making constant calls. You're operating at maximum output. If you keep this pace without a break, you'll eventually feel drained, lose enthusiasm, and maybe even get sick. But if you plan for recovery afterward, you can sustain high performance for years. The deep recovery cycle. This is where you replenish, physically, mentally, and emotionally. It's more than just taking a break. True recovery means sleep, time in nature, unstructured play, reflection, and activities that feed your soul. It's allowing your brain to reset and your creativity to recharge. Real-life example. An Olympic athlete doesn't train at maximum intensity every single day. They rest strategically, because that's when the body repairs and grows stronger. Similarly, a business leader might take a week off after an intense quarter, not to be lazy, but to return sharper and more innovative. Why most people fail. The billionaire explains that average performers either stay stuck in the high excellence cycle too long, leading to burnout. Stay in the deep recovery cycle too long, leading to stagnation. Elite performers know how to flow between the two, pushing hard, then recharging completely. The 60 out of 10 strategy. To make this practical for daily life, the billionaire shares a method: work in 60-minute bursts of total focus, followed by 10 minutes of active rest. In those 10 minutes, you step away from your desk, stretch, hydrate, or take a short walk. This keeps your mind fresh and your output high throughout the day. Life example. A coder working on a complex project might focus for 1 hour without distractions, then take a 10-minute break to walk around the block. Over an 8-hour day, their productivity will be far higher than someone who works for 8 hours straight but keeps checking emails and social media. Rest as a strategic weapon. Sharma makes a bold statement here: rest is not the opposite of work, it's part of work. It's an investment in your future productivity. The billionaire tells a story of a famous artist who took month-long, creative sabbaticals, twice a year. During these, he didn't paint at all, he traveled, read, and explored new hobbies. When he returned, his art reached new levels of originality because his mind was refreshed. The law of rhythmic renewal. The core message? Your life, like nature, is built on rhythms. Fight against them, and you'll exhaust yourself. Work with them, and you'll unlock your best performance without burning out. Practical steps for your own life. Schedule peak work weeks, followed by lighter weeks. Protect weekends as times for genuine rest. Plan quarterly getaways, even if it's just a staycation. Honor daily recovery through naps, walks, and meditation. Relatable example for everyday life. Let's say you're a parent working full-time and building a side business. It's tempting to work every evening and weekend. But if you schedule 2 evenings a week for downtime, playing with your kids, reading a novel, cooking a nice meal, you'll find that your work on the other nights is sharper, faster, and more creative. This is how you avoid becoming a burned-out, resentful parent or entrepreneur, and instead become someone who has both achievement and joy. Closing thoughts for Chapter 13. This chapter is a turning point because it reframes the idea of success. It's not about who works the most hours, it's about who manages their energy the best. High achievers don't just go hard. They also recover like pros. The billionaire leaves them with this parting thought: even the finest sword will rust if it's never placed back in its sheath. Protect your instrument, your mind, your body, your spirit, with rest, and you'll perform like a master for decades. We've journeyed through early mornings, powerful rituals, and the twin cycles of elite performance. In Chapter 13, we learned the rhythm of pushing ourselves in the high excellence cycle and then pulling back into the deep recovery cycle. Now, in Chapter 14, Robin Sharma pulls back the curtain on how to bring it all together into a complete ecosystem of living, where your habits, mindset, and energy form a self-reinforcing loop that keeps you performing at your peak without losing joy. This chapter is all about the habit installation protocol and the deeper art of sustaining success. It's where the pieces click together, where waking up at 5 a.m. becomes not just a morning event, but a lifestyle transformation. The story continues on the billionaire's private beach. The artist and entrepreneur have been absorbing wisdom for days, and the sunrise feels different now, less like a symbol of discipline and more like a symbol of possibility. The billionaire tells them, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And that's where this chapter begins, with a truth most people miss: your life doesn't change by accident, it changes by design. The Habit Installation Protocol, 66 Days to Mastery. The billionaire explains that it takes 66 days to hardwire a new habit into your brain, based on research from University College London. But these 66 days aren't just a straight line of progress. They unfold in 3 phases. Destruction, days 1 to 22. This is the hardest phase. You're breaking old patterns, and your brain resists change. Waking up at 5 a.m. feels unnatural. Your body craves the comfort of the familiar. Relatable example, think about starting a new fitness routine. The first 3 weeks are often the most painful, your muscles ache, you feel slow, and you miss your old comfort foods. But this discomfort is a sign you're tearing down the old you. Installation, days 23 to 44. Here, you're in the messy middle. You've let go of the old habit, but the new one isn't yet automatic. Motivation swings wildly. This is where most people quit. Life example, imagine you're learning a new language. By week 4, you've memorized basic words but struggle with conversation. You feel frustrated because you're in between, not fluent, but no longer a beginner. This is where perseverance matters most. Integration, days 45 to 66. This is where the magic happens. The new habit starts to feel like part of who you are. Waking up early no longer requires force, it's automatic. You've shifted your identity from someone trying to wake up early to someone who is an early riser. Life example, a new vegetarian might find that after 2 months, they no longer crave meat. It's not a willpower battle anymore, their identity has shifted. Identity over willpower. The billionaire emphasizes that transformation lasts when you build it on identity, not just discipline. If you keep thinking, I'm forcing myself to do this, you'll eventually stop. But when you believe, this is just who I am, the habit becomes permanent. Example. Saying, I'm a fit person, makes it easier to maintain exercise than saying, I'm trying to work out. Saying, I'm a disciplined business leader, makes it easier to stick to routines than, I'm trying to get organized. The power of environment. Sharma stresses that your surroundings either pull you forward or drag you down. Elite performers deliberately shape their environments to make the right behaviors easy and the wrong behaviors hard. Relatable example. If you want to read more, keep books on your nightstand and remove your TV from the bedroom. If you want to eat healthy, keep fruit on the counter and junk food out of the house. The billionaire even advises them to curate their relationships, spend time with people who raise your standards, not those who normalize mediocrity. Rituals trump motivation. The truth? Motivation is unreliable. Even the most driven people don't feel inspired every day. But rituals, automated, consistent actions, ensure progress whether you feel like it or not. Example. An author might not feel inspired to write every morning, but if they sit at the desk at 5:30 a.m. every day without fail, the words eventually flow. From morning discipline to all-day mastery. By this point, the 5 a.m. wake-up isn't just about mornings anymore. It's about building a complete personal operating system. The 20/20/20 formula sets the tone. The twin cycles of elite performance sustain your energy. The habit installation protocol makes success automatic. Relatable example. Think of it like building a skyscraper. The foundation is your mindset, the pillars are your habits, and the top floors are your achievements. Without a strong base, the whole structure collapses. The emotional payoff. Sharma doesn't just talk about productivity, he talks about the joy of living with clarity, purpose, and self-respect. There's a confidence that comes from keeping promises to yourself. You stop negotiating with your excuses, and you start trusting your own word. The billionaire's voice softens as he tells them. The true gift of the 5 a.m. club isn't just more time to work on your craft. It's the person you become in the process, disciplined, intentional, and alive with purpose. He reminds them that while most people live life reacting to circumstances, the 5 a.m. club members create their circumstances. By owning your mornings, you reclaim control of your days, your destiny, and your identity. And as the sun climbs higher over the horizon, the artist and entrepreneur realize, they're no longer just students. They're becoming masters of their own lives. The air on the island is still, but not silent. Waves roll onto the sand in steady rhythm, like a natural heartbeat. The artist and entrepreneur stand beside the billionaire, the sun painting their faces in gold. There's a quiet intensity in the moment. They sense that they're about to receive one of the most profound lessons yet. The billionaire smiles knowingly. You've learned the science of habits, the art of discipline, and the magic of the morning. Now, I'm going to show you something that will change not just your productivity, but your lifespan, and the quality of every day you live. The 4 interior empires. The billionaire draws 4 circles in the sand, each representing a realm we must master if we want true greatness. He calls them the 4 interior empires. Mindset, the way you think about yourself and the world. Heartset, your emotional life, the way you process feelings. Healthset, your physical vitality, energy, and fitness. Soulset, your connection to meaning, purpose, and spirituality. Most people obsess only over mindset. They read books, attend seminars, and learn strategies, but neglect the other 3. Sharma's point is simple: if you want lasting success, you must build all 4. Mindset, the psychology of possibility. Your beliefs shape your reality. The billionaire reminds them of Henry Ford's famous line, "Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right." Real-life example: 2 entrepreneurs pitch the same business idea to investors. One believes deeply in its value, speaks with conviction, and secures funding. The other doubts themselves, hesitates, and gets rejected. The idea was the same, the belief made the difference. But mindset isn't just blind optimism. It's about training your brain to see opportunities instead of problems. The billionaire compares it to upgrading your mental software. When the program is better, the output improves automatically. Heartset, the emotional life you carry. The billionaire leans in, unprocessed pain becomes a prison. We all carry old hurts, betrayals, failures, losses, and if we don't release them, they cloud our thinking and limit our joy. Heartset is about healing emotional wounds so you can show up fully in the present. Example. Imagine a real estate agent who was burned by a dishonest partner years ago. They never processed the betrayal, so now they approach every new deal with suspicion, sabotaging potential relationships. By practicing forgiveness, journaling, or therapy, they lighten that emotional baggage, freeing themselves to trust again. Healthset, energy is the new wealth. The billionaire gets personal here. He reveals that he once chased money so hard he ignored his health. Stress, poor diet, and lack of sleep caught up to him, until he realized that no success is worth anything if your body is failing you. Life example: think of Steve Jobs' famous reflection that all the money in the world can't buy more time once your health is gone. Or the high-performing CEO who collapses from burnout because they treated their body like a disposable tool. Sharma's point: if you want to be in the game for decades, you need to treat your body like your most valuable asset. That means daily movement, quality nutrition, rest, and recovery. Soulset, the higher self within you. This is the least discussed, but perhaps the most transformative. Soulset is your connection to something greater, whether you call it God, the universe, or simply your deeper self. Example: consider an artist who paints purely for fame and money. They may achieve both but still feel hollow. Contrast that with an artist who paints to express truth, uplift others, and connect with the human spirit. Their work feels alive, because it's fueled by purpose. Sharma argues that purpose-driven living produces a unique energy. It's more resilient, more magnetic, and more fulfilling than purely self-centered ambition. Balancing the 4 empires. The billionaire explains that these 4 empires are like legs of a table. If one is weak, the whole table wobbles. Many people excel in one area, like mindset, but their health suffers, or their emotional life is in chaos, or they've lost their sense of purpose. Relatable scenario. A top athlete with peak healthset might lack mindset when facing business challenges after retirement. A high-powered lawyer with razor-sharp mindset might burn out from poor healthset. A compassionate volunteer might have strong heart set but struggle financially due to weak mindset habits. True mastery is balance. Daily calibration. The billionaire's advice is simple yet profound. Every day, invest in all four empires, even if only for a few minutes each. Examples. Mindset, read 10 pages of a growth-oriented book. Heart set, write in a gratitude journal or call a loved one. Health set, do a 20-minute workout. Soul set, meditate or spend time in nature. Over time, these small daily deposits compound into extraordinary results. The ripple effect. As they walk along the shore, the billionaire explains how the four interior empires don't just transform you, they influence everyone around you. A leader with balanced empires inspires their team to rise higher. A parent with calm heart set raises children who feel safe and confident. A healthy, purpose-driven entrepreneur builds businesses that uplift communities. Your personal mastery becomes a public gift. Closing thoughts for Chapter 15. The sun is high now, and the waves are brighter. The billionaire pauses, then says, the world doesn't need more burned-out geniuses. It needs whole humans, leaders who think deeply, feel richly, live healthily, and serve selflessly. The artist and entrepreneur feel the truth of it. They've been chasing isolated wins, money, recognition, skill, but now they see the bigger game, integrated greatness. As they leave the beach, there's a shift in their posture. They're no longer just collecting tactics. They're building themselves from the inside out, for empires, one day at a time. The sky above the island is painted in deep oranges and soft purples as dawn approaches. The billionaire, artist, and entrepreneur gather on the deck, the ocean's gentle rhythm in the background. There's an unmistakable sense that today's lesson will be about living beyond ordinary, about stepping into a league that few dare to enter. The billionaire leans forward with an almost conspiratorial smile. You've learned how to master your morning, shape your mindset, and balance your inner empires. Now, we're going to talk about something that separates the good from the legendary, the 10 tactics of lifelong genius. These aren't just productivity hacks. They're systems for sustaining brilliance in an unpredictable world. The billionaire makes it clear, if you live by these, you won't just perform well, you'll create work and a life that echoes long after you're gone. Tactic 1, the tight bubble of total focus. Most people live distracted. Notifications, gossip, shallow conversations, they scatter energy and fracture concentration. The billionaire insists on creating a tight bubble around your most valuable hours and projects. Example, a real estate agent who checks their phone every few minutes while working on a major property deal risks missing key details. But one who works in a distraction-free environment for 2 solid hours each morning will produce sharper, faster results, and make fewer costly mistakes. Tactic 2, the 90/90/1 rule. For the next 90 days, spend the first 90 minutes of your workday on your single most important project. This builds momentum and pushes high-value goals to completion. Example, an author who writes 1,000 words every morning before checking email will finish a book in months. A business owner who spends the first 90 minutes on sales calls daily will close more deals than competitors who start with, just checking emails. Tactic 3, the 60-10 method. Work with intense focus for 60 minutes, then take a deliberate 10-minute break to recharge. Science shows our brain works best in pulses, not marathons. Example, a student who studies in 60-10 cycles retains more than one who crams for 3 hours straight without pause. A salesperson making calls for 60 minutes, then stretching or meditating for 10, comes back sharper and more persuasive. Tactic 4, the daily 5. Identify 5 small but valuable wins you'll achieve each day. They compound into huge transformations over time. Example, for a health goal, your daily 5 could be, drink 8 glasses of water, walk 10,000 steps, eat 2 servings of greens, meditate for 5 minutes, and go to bed by 10 p.m. Over a year, that's over 1,800 microwins stacking into a dramatically better life. Tactic 5, the second wind workout. Do a light workout in the early evening. It recharges your energy, boosts creativity, and resets your mind after the day's stress. Example, a real estate professional doing 30 minutes of yoga at 6 p.m. feels refreshed for an evening client showing. A writer going for a sunset jog finds new inspiration for a chapter that seemed stuck earlier. Tactic 6, the 2 massage protocol. The billionaire shocks them with this one: schedule 2 massages each week. Why? To speed recovery, reduce stress, and keep the body in peak condition, because high performance isn't just about mental stamina. Example, a CEO with chronic tension headache starts weekly massages and notices clearer thinking and better mood, which leads to sharper decision-making. Tactic 7, Traffic University. Turn commuting time into a classroom. Listen to audiobooks, language lessons, or expert interviews instead of aimless radio chatter. Example, a sales rep who listens to negotiation podcasts during daily traffic improves their close rate within months. A driver learning a new language on the way to work opens doors to new markets. Tactic 8, the Dream Team Technique. Surround yourself with A players who inspire you to rise higher. Collaboration with the right people multiplies output. Example, a small business owner partners with a skilled marketer, a numbers-savvy accountant, and a visionary designer. Together, they scale the business faster than the owner could have alone. Tactic 9, the Weekly Design System. Every Sunday, spend 30 to 60 minutes mapping your week, top priorities, key meetings, recovery blocks, and personal time. This prevents drifting and ensures purposeful living. Example, a busy parent plans work deadlines, gym time, and family movie night in advance, creating harmony instead of constant juggling. Tactic 10, the 60-minute student. Dedicate an hour a day to learning something new. Continuous learning is fuel for long-term relevance and innovation. Example, a realtor studies real estate law updates for an hour daily, making them more trusted by clients and ahead of competitors. A musician spends an hour exploring new genres, which refreshes their creativity. The bigger picture. The billionaire explains that these 10 tactics aren't random, they work together like gears in a watch. Protecting your focus feeds into your 90/90/1 project time. Daily wins keep your confidence high. Evening workouts and massages maintain your energy. Learning daily ensures you're never outdated. He reminds them, consistency is more important than intensity. Show up every day, even in small ways, and the compound effect will astonish you. The sun is now higher, casting a warm glow on the deck. The billionaire leans back. The difference between a good life and a legendary life is often a few small rituals repeated over time. The 5 a.m. club isn't just about waking early, it's about what you do with the hours that follow. The artist and entrepreneur glance at each other, feeling the truth in his words. They realize they've been given a playbook not just for success, but for sustained brilliance, the kind that endures when others burn out. They imagine their futures, healthier bodies, sharper minds, deeper relationships, more meaningful work. Not overnight, but day by day, tactic by tactic, until their lives reflect the genius they've been quietly building all along. The morning sun spills across the deck like liquid gold. The air feels crisp, but there's a warmth in the way the light touches the water. The artist and the entrepreneur sit silently, watching the horizon, sensing that what they are about to learn will be as much about the heart as it is about the mind. The billionaire arrives, his energy calm yet electric, and takes his seat with a steaming mug in hand. Today, he begins, we move into the philosophy that will shape not just your productivity, but your legacy. We've covered tactics, we've discussed mastery, but now, we need to talk about the deep human truths that make all of this worthwhile. He explains that Chapter 17 is about living with intentionality, about crafting a life so aligned with your deepest values that every day becomes an act of artistry. It's about moving from being busy to being meaningful. The billionaire tells them of a friend, a man who spent decades chasing corporate titles, working 80-hour weeks, and climbing the success ladder. On paper, he had it all, a corner office, luxury cars, and a penthouse apartment. But at 55, after a health scare, he realized he couldn't name 5 moments from the last decade that truly made him feel alive. Don't be that person, the billionaire says firmly. A rich life isn't about money alone, it's about moments, contribution, and the way you show up for the world. He begins breaking down what he calls the 4 focuses of history makers. First, capitalization of strengths. Legendary performers don't try to be everything to everyone. They pick their unique strengths and multiply them. Example, in real estate, an agent with natural negotiation skills might choose to become the absolute best deal closer in the region rather than spending endless time trying to master accounting. In sports, Michael Phelps didn't train to be a sprinter, he focused on swimming and honed his body and mind entirely for that. Second, freedom from distraction. Distraction isn't just about losing time, it's about losing potential. A distracted mind can't create at its highest level. Example, a young architect checks social media every few minutes while working on a design. The result? Mediocre work. Compare that to an architect who shuts off notifications, works for 3 focused hours, and produces a building design that wins awards. Third, personal mastery practice. Every great innovator, athlete, or leader invests daily in becoming better than they were yesterday. Example, a real estate professional studies property law updates every morning, not because they have to, but because they want to be the most informed in the industry. Over time, this makes them a magnet for high-value clients. Fourth, day stacking. Life is built one day at a time. Stack enough great days, and you build a great life. Example, an entrepreneur commits to exercising daily, reading for 30 minutes, and making 5 strategic calls every workday. None of these actions seem massive in isolation, but over 5 years, the compounded results are transformative. The billionaire pauses, looking out at the ocean. The way you live each day is the way you live your life. And the way you live your life will determine how you are remembered. He gives another example, a school teacher who never became famous, never earned a fortune, but who dedicated every single day to inspiring her students. Decades later, many of those students credit her for their success in life. She was a history maker, he says. Not because the world saw her, but because the lives she touched became better for knowing her. The conversation drifts into the power of legacy thinking. The billionaire explains that high performers think about how their actions will ripple across years and even generations. Example, a business owner who chooses ethical practices, even if it costs more in the short term, builds a reputation that becomes their most valuable asset over decades. A parent who reads to their child every night might not see immediate results, but in 20 years, that child becomes a confident communicator and leader. The role of courage. No history maker lives without fear, but they act anyway. Courage, the billionaire insists, isn't about the absence of fear, it's about continuing despite it. Example, think of J.K. Rowling, rejected by 12 publishers before one finally accepted Harry Potter. If she had let fear and rejection dictate her path, millions of readers would have missed her stories. The ripple effect of excellence. When you choose to do work at your absolute best, it doesn't just elevate you, it inspires others to raise their own game. Example, in an office, when one person starts showing up early, fully prepared, and consistently delivering high-quality results, others begin to follow suit. Excellence is contagious. The billionaire leans in, speaking softer now. In the end, success is internal. If you wake up knowing you're living true to your values, working on what matters, and becoming who you're meant to be, then you've already won. He tells them about his mentor, an elderly craftsman who carved furniture by hand. Each piece took weeks to finish. When asked why he didn't switch to faster machines, he smiled and said, "I'm not making furniture. I'm making art. And I'm making a life I can be proud of." The lesson today isn't about doing more, it's about being more. It's about rising each day with clarity, working in alignment with your highest strengths, protecting your focus, and committing to daily improvement. It's about understanding that your actions, even the small ones, form the story of your life. The artist and entrepreneur feel a quiet determination building inside them. They realize that greatness isn't about luck or talent alone. It's about deliberate choices, repeated daily, with the courage to stand for something bigger than yourself. As the sun climbs higher and the waves continue their rhythm, they understand that this chapter isn't just another note in their learning, it's a call to live fully, boldly, and in a way that, decades from now, they'll look back on and say, "I gave it my all." The sky is beginning to lighten, not just in the story, but in the hearts of the characters who've walked this journey. The artist, the entrepreneur, and the billionaire are no longer the same people who met on that beach at the start of this adventure. They've been transformed, not by chance, but by choice. And that's the heart of the 5 a.m. Club. It's not just about waking up early, it's about waking up to life. It's about understanding that every single morning, you are handed a blank page, and what you write on it will eventually become the story of your life. It's about using those first, golden hours not to rush into the noise, but to build yourself into someone who can face the noise with grace, clarity, and power. We've learned that greatness is not a single act, it's a habit. We've seen that mastery doesn't arrive overnight, it's crafted in the quiet, consistent moments when nobody is watching. We've seen that the legends of history, the changemakers, the visionaries, all shared something in common: they took their mornings seriously, because they took their lives seriously. The billionaires' lessons weren't just about productivity hacks or fancy frameworks, they were about life architecture. About building yourself first so you can build the world around you. About creating an inner fortress so strong that no setback can collapse it, and a sense of purpose so clear that no distraction can dilute it. The artist now understands that her creativity flows best when her mind is clear and her body is energized. The entrepreneur now knows that business success without inner peace is just another form of poverty. And the billionaire? He leaves them, and us, with a gift, the understanding that the most valuable wealth you'll ever own is the person you become. But this isn't just their story. This is an invitation to you. To take ownership of your mornings, and by doing so, take ownership of your life. To stop living on autopilot and start living with intention. To rise not just at 5 a.m., but to rise in your thinking, in your discipline, in your courage. You see, the real victory isn't in beating the sun out of bed, it's in beating yesterday's version of yourself. As you step away from this book and back into your own life, remember this: every day, you will face a choice. The choice to hit the snooze button, on your alarm, on your dreams, on your potential, or the choice to rise. To rise for yourself. To rise for the people you love. To rise for the life you've been given. Because one day, whether tomorrow or decades from now, you'll look back and realize that it was never about the 5 a.m. alarm. It was about what you did with the quiet it gave you. So, will you rise? Will you create? Will you lead? Will you live in such a way that when your final chapter is written, the world will say, "They lived fully. They gave their all. And because of them, the rest of us saw what was possible." The beach fades. The waves still crash. And somewhere, a clock strikes 5 a.m. The day is waiting. The rest of your life is waiting. And that brings us to the end of this incredible journey through the 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. We've walked alongside the characters, learned the wisdom of owning our mornings, and discovered how small, consistent changes can lead to extraordinary results in every area of life. If there's one thing to take away from this book, it's that transformation is possible for anyone, but it begins with a choice. The choice to rise earlier, to live with purpose, and to build a life that's not just successful, but truly significant. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope you found inspiration, motivation, and practical strategies you can apply starting tomorrow morning. Remember, books like this are not meant to just be listened to, they're meant to be lived. That's it for this great book. I'll see you next time with another powerful and inspirational book that will help you unlock your potential, sharpen your mind, and elevate your life. Until then, keep striving, keep believing, and keep showing up for your own greatness.